Wow. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for that wonderful, warm introduction. It's wonderful to be here just a few short weeks after I accept my party's nomination to run and serve as the next Vice President of the United States of America. Thank you all for being here today. It is wonderful to be back in Nevada. This is actually my second trip since our convention. And I'm just here to tell you it's great to be in the great state of Nevada that's about to send a doctor to the Senate. Dr. Joe Heck is going to go to the Senate and bring strong conservative values. But I got to tell you, I appreciate that introduction by Michael so much. Appreciate his leadership. And how, can I give it up for Wayne Allen Root, who turned out so many people. Appreciate his strong, common sense, conservative voice. I appreciate Michael's words. I'm humbled by it. But honestly, the introduction I prefer is just a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. And I want to tell you, I joined this campaign in a heartbeat because you have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down, who is a fighter, who is a winner, and until very recently it seemed like he was out there fighting all on his own, but now this movement is united, this country is united, and we're going to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States of America. You know, Donald Trump, the way I like to put it is, having spent some time around this good man, is Donald Trump just gets it, right? I mean, he understands the hopes and aspirations and frustrations of the American people more than any other leader on the national stage since a president from California by the name of Reagan. Yeah. I truly believe it. I mean, he's a genuine article, isn't he? Distinctly American. He drives a lot of those people over in Europe just crazy. And he's a doer. He's a doer in a game usually reserved for talkers. And when Donald Trump does his talking, he doesn't go tiptoeing around those thousands of rules of political correctness that the elites and the media lay in the way. He says it straight from his heart, straight from his mind, and the American people hear him loud and clear. You know, the funny thing is the party in power didn't seem to know what to do with this guy. You ever notice that? And of course, I'm talking about the media now, right? But I mean, think about it. You know, the Democrats and the media, I mean, they kind of throw everything at him every day. I got to turn the TV on with a stick anymore. Did you get that one back there? I got that. I mean, you really kind of do, you know. I mean, it really is amazing. I mean, but they all keep telling each other the usual methods of work. This issue, now we got this. They go chasing after semantics over substance, and then they turn on the TV the next morning, and Donald Trump is still standing strong, talking about the issues the American people care about and fighting every day to make America great again, and he's going to do it come November. The amazing thing is, if you think about it, at the very moment America's crying out for something new and different, the other parties answered with a stale agenda and the most predictable of names. I mean, you know, people in this country, here in Nevada, back in my home state of Indiana, I mean, we're restless for change, aren't we? We're tired of the same old failed leadership that, frankly, we've been getting from both political parties for far too long. The American people long for government as good as our people, and yet the other party has literally nominated somebody who personifies the failed establishment in Washington, D.C. I mean, this choice could not be more clear. We can elect a leader who will bring real change to Washington, D.C., or we can keep doing what we've been doing and expecting a different result. It's change versus the status quo, and the American people are going to vote for real change this time when we make Donald Trump our next president. You know, and the secret behind this guy is Donald Trump has never forgotten the men and women who built this country, who work with their hands, People that grow the food, work the fields, build the roads and bridges, tend to our sick, teach our kids. And Donald Trump will never forget the men and women who answer the call at home and abroad to put on the uniform to protect our families and our freedom. You know, this has been a very challenging time in the life of those who serve in law enforcement in this nation. I just stopped by the Henderson Police Department just to make sure they know how much I appreciate them. Would you mind getting on your feet? Would you mind getting on your feet and showing our local law enforcement and all those gathered here how grateful we are for all they do for our families each and every day? Thank you all. Thank you for that. You know, last night outside Milwaukee, Donald Trump gave a very important speech. I recommend it to your attention. He spoke a word of gratitude to law enforcement officers across this country during this very difficult time. He alluded to the violence, the riots, and the destruction that had just taken place in Milwaukee over this last weekend for a night or two. He called it rightly, not just an assault on businesses and individuals in that community, but, quote, an assault on the right of all citizens to live in security and peace. What he said last night, though, that meant the most to me, I called him up right after he jumped back in the car, and I told him it was an important speech, one that needed to be said for a long time. Yes, we need more law enforcement, more community engagement, more effective policing all across this country, and Donald Trump's going to be a law and order president of the United States. I promise you. But also he took a minute in his straightforward, candid way to denounce that narrative supported by our opponent and many people that rally around her that seems to lay some responsibility for these moments at the feet of law enforcement. He denounced those that peddle a narrative of our police officers as some sort of a force that drives racism in the country. Donald Trump and I know our men and women in law enforcement are a force for good, a force for security, and a force for everything that's right about this country. So let me promise you, as a chief law enforcement officer of the United States, a President Donald Trump will support our law enforcement at every level. We will provide the resources so they can protect our families and come home safe to theirs. You know, it is pretty remarkable in this campaign, I got to tell you. Just about every day, the national media latches onto some issue about my running mate. You ever notice that? I mean, they're so busy parsing every word that Donald Trump said in the last 30 minutes, they don't apparently have time to talk about what the Clintons have been doing for the last 30 years. Isn't that right? It's true. Yeah. Sure. So I thought I'd help him out a little bit. Can we do that for a second? I mean, you know, just in the past week, I mean, we all know the cascade of questionable conduct that just comes out of the Clintons. I've been used to it for years. Just last week, you know, while the media was chasing after semantics with my running mate and word choices, they were largely ignoring the news that, believe it or not, new emails had come to light that seemed to provide direct evidence that favors were done by State Department officials under Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for large foreign donors to the Clinton Foundation. And then we learned another day later that several months ago, the FBI discussed opening a public corruption investigation into the Clinton Foundation, and Barack Obama's Justice Department apparently shut it down. You know what? The American people are sick and tired of pay-to-play politics in Washington, D.C., and Donald Trump and I are going to bring it to a crashing halt the day we arrive at the White House. But we all know about those Cass Candy controversies. You know, the real scandal to me coming out of Hillary Clinton's campaign has to do with the challenges facing working Americans today. You know, what we're not talking about today is the reality in this economy. I can tell you, any progress you made here in Nevada, any progress we've made back in the Hoosier State has been in spite of what Barack Obama has been doing in Washington, D.C., not because of it. I mean, we're in the midst of the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. We have the lowest labor participation level in this economy, people in the workforce and active in the workforce, since the 1970s. That was about the time I finished high school. And probably most heartbreaking of all, today there are more than 7 million people living in poverty than the day that Barack Obama became president of the United States of America. Now, Hillary Clinton's answer for that, she outlined in that big speech that she gave on that big stage at the convention, giving a rosy image of the economy. And I listened to most of the speech. I mean, honestly, I had as hard a time staying awake as her husband did. Yeah, I did. But I mean, I was paying attention. I mean, it was amazing. Just like in less than an hour, the woman, going to raise taxes by $1 trillion on top of the tax increases, and more regulation, more Obamacare, and more spending. More than $1 trillion in new spending, and more of the war on coal, just more of the same old, same old. That's why it was hard to follow. There was just absolutely nothing new there. And you know, on the spending side, Hillary Clinton, just in the last 24 hours, when she was asked how she's going to pay for all these new big government programs that she's out there advocating, she actually said, I wrote it down, she said, I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going where the money is. She said, we're going after the super wealthy. We're going after corporations. We're going after Wall Street. Well, I mean, she knows where all that is. I mean, she voted for the Wall Street bailout. I helped lead the fight against it on Capitol Hill. She knows about that. Going after those corporations, you know, from 2013 to, I think, 2014, she collected about $21 million in speaking fees from major corporations. So she knows where that stuff is. But, you know, Margaret Thatcher said the real problem with going where the money is, Margaret Thatcher, late Prime Minister of England, said, quote, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. Right? So I just want to say to you, with that same old, more government, more taxes, more regulation, more Obamacare, more of the war on coal, less prosperity for Americans, let's decide here and now that Hillary Clinton will never be elected President of the United States of America. Okay? Can we do that? That's it. I mean, it's got to decide it. Let's just make a decision about it. Let's just go do it, okay? I mean, they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. They do, really. But Donald Trump and I know different. It's nowhere near the best that we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes President of the United States of America, we're going to get this economy working for every working family, small business, and family farm in this nation. I mean, Donald Trump's got a plan, putting common sense conservative principles into practice, which work every time you try them. I mean, they worked in the Hoosier State. He's always telling me, he says, you got to talk about Indiana. You got to talk about Indiana. And in the Hoosier State, we kind of got modesty in our DNA, you know. We kind of do. but I've been trying to get over that a little bit because Indiana's a place where we demonstrated, you know, when you balance budgets and you let people keep more of what they earn, you make the right investments in education and roads and bridges and infrastructure and in health care, you take 3 steps back, it all still works. We actually call Indiana a state that works, and in the time that I've been governor, we've cut taxes every single year, we've cut unemployment in half, and we got more Hoosiers working than ever before in the 200-year history of our state. And Donald Trump's got a plan. Donald Trump, about a week ago, went to Detroit. I was there at his side. I introduced him at that speech. He's a hard man to precede. I introduced him at that speech. I was proud to do it because he laid out a vision I would recommend to your attention to reignite the American economy with the time-honored principles of tax reform, regulatory reform, energy reform, and trade reform. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we are going to cut taxes across the board for every American. We're going to do it, okay? We're going to lower marginal income tax rate from 7 rates down to 3. We're going to work with Dr. Heck and others, and we're going to lower those marginal income tax rates. And we're going to lower the corporate tax rate in America to 15% so that businesses large and small in Nevada and in Indiana and America can compete with businesses all over the world and keep jobs here. He's got a plan to roll back red tape, something that we did in the Hoosier State that he was kind enough to reference. Is the day I became governor, we actually signed a moratorium on any new regulation. And Donald Trump's going to do the very same thing the day he becomes president. We're going to look back. We're going to repeal all those unconstitutional executive orders of the Obama administration and roll back regulatory red tape that's stifling our American economy. We're going to develop the resources of this land. We're going to end the war on coal once and for all and develop all the resources of this nation. And when we elect one of the best negotiators on planet Earth to be president of the United States, we're going to negotiate trade deals that will work for working Americans in all 50 states. Now, Hillary Clinton the other day said, that Donald Trump's plan and his expectation to get the economy moving again was, quote, wildly unrealistic. She did. Well, the only thing that's wildly unrealistic is expecting you can elect the same people with the same bad ideas and get a different result. Men and women, Donald Trump is going to turn this economy around and get America working again. Now, the contrast at home is dramatic. The contrast in policies and philosophy, once you look outside our borders, is a whole lot different. It's even worse. The record of Hillary Clinton on foreign affairs and Barack Obama is extraordinary. If you took a picture of a map of the wider Middle East in 2009 and you looked at it, a map today, you could barely recognize it because of the policies that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have advanced. 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's leadership on the world stage has literally weakened our place on the globe. Terrorist attacks at home and abroad, grim and heartbreaking scenes in our allies. For all the world, it looks on some days like the world is just spinning apart, doesn't it? You know, history teaches us that weakness arouses evil. And Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's foreign policy of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, the rise, rule, and reign of ISIS are a testament to this truth of history. It was Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton who helped undo the hard-fought gains of the American soldier in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama pulled our troops out precipitously without renegotiating a status of forces agreement. They literally created a vacuum in which ISIS was able to be conjured up and compromise vast areas of that hard-fought territory in Iraq. It was Hillary Clinton who actually instigated the president's disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran, $150 billion in illusory promises about their nuclear program. And most jarringly of all, we all witnessed a few short weeks ago when this administration approved the delivery of $400 million in cash in ransom on the very day that 4 Americans were released from Tehran. Let me make you a promise. When Donald Trump is president of the United States, we won't be paying ransom to terrorist-sponsoring states or terrorists. They'll be paying a price if they threaten the people of the United States of America or our citizens or our allies. You know, we just can't have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. We learned from that 40th president 2-3 decades ago that we can have peace in the world through strength. And I promise you this, Donald Trump will end the era of America leading from behind. He will rebuild our military and stand with strong, broad-shouldered strength on the world stage with our allies and against our enemies. Now, let me say a couple more things, then I'm going to slide out and see what's on your mind. But in addition to the challenges that we face at home and abroad after 7.5 years of failed leadership that Hillary Clinton wants to continue. I literally saw one of these New York Times columnists just the other day say Hillary's running for Barack Obama's 3rd term. They don't, I mean, they're just completely open and straightforward about it. Give them credit for that, right? But the truth of the matter is that as high as the stakes are at home and abroad, they probably are nowhere more significant than in this reality. We're going to elect a president to serve a 4-year term, but that president is likely going to set the course and destiny of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. And we better think about that. Okay? Better think about that. Long and hard. I mean, truthfully, men and women, I mean, you elect Hillary Clinton, and you better get used to seeing more unelected judges using unaccountable power to take unconstitutional actions. Okay? I mean, the Supreme Court just a few short years back by a 5-4 vote, 5-4 vote, recognized that the Second Amendment of the United States protections the right to keep and bear arms was an individual right, and protected the right of an individual to have a firearm in your home to protect your own family. And Hillary Clinton called that a terrible decision. So let me just say, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of human life, for the sake of the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, let's decide here and now that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States of America is President Donald Trump. Okay? It's that important. It's that important. Well, as I close, let me, and I'm going to remind you one more time of the stakes in this and get to your questions. But you know, it's a challenging time in the life of our nation. I mean, it seems like there's so many things that divide us and so few great purposes that unite us the way they once did. I mean, in a very real sense, I was raised on the front row of the American dream. You know, my grandfather came to this country from Ireland. He watched my mom marry a fast-talking salesman who took her down to southern Indiana and bought a little house with a cornfield in the backyard and ran a gas station business that we all grew up working at. I like to tell people Mom and Dad build everything that matters. They build a family, a business, and a good name, everything that we cherish in life, all on a foundation of faith in our life. And my family raised me and my 3 brothers and 2 sisters to believe that to whom much is given, much will be required. And that each of us in our own time, we have an obligation we have an obligation to do all that we can to preserve that American dream for this generation and the next. They called it the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. But it was just about making sure that this generation and the next generation can have the opportunity to live out their dreams, regardless of where they start in life. To live out their dreams in this land of the free and the home of the brave. But I think it's a time when we ought to leave here today. We ought to go talk to our neighbors and friends here in Nevada. We ought to, if there's some things I've said to you that maybe remind you of the stakes in this election, maybe some things that motivated you to be here, maybe there were some things that you hadn't thought about and said, well, you know what, that too. I want you to leave here today and go talk to people about it. But I also hope you talk about the fact that in Donald Trump, we have a leader that wants to bring this country together around our best ideals and our best hopes and our best dreams. And not divide us relentlessly, as has been happening for too long in our politics. I mean, Donald and I, we have a lot in common. We really do. His grandfather was an immigrant to this country, so was mine. His father was a self-made man, so was mine. I mean, other than a whole bunch of zeros, we've got a very similar life story. But I mean, he grew up believing you need to build on what you've been given. And for me, it was about public service. My brothers and sisters have gone on to build great careers. And there's just that sense of being able to preserve that in this moment. And I encourage you to go out and talk to people about that too. Talk about the choice, and I'll give you one more time in a second. But also talk about the fact that there'll always be so much more in this country that unites us than what divides us. And if we'll speak about that with aspiration and with confidence, with hope, and with faith, I think the American people will continue more and more every day in the next 82 days to rally to our cause. And I'd also say to all of you, if you do as Karen and I do from time to time, if you bow the head or bend the knee, I encourage you to do that as well, because I truly do believe what's been true for millennia is still true today, that if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray, he'll hear from heaven again, and he'll heal our land. He will. So let me lay it out to you one more time, okay? We have a choice to make. Your neighbors and friends here in Nevada need to hear about it. Number one, if you want a president who will protect this nation, who will rebuild our military, who will name and confront radical Islamic terrorism and end the threat of ISIS to our people and our allies. If you want a president who will restore law and order to this country and give law enforcement the support and resources that they need and deserve. If you want a president who will cut taxes, grow our economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. If you want a president who will restore our borders, build a wall, and uphold the laws of this country for the citizens of this country. And I promise you this, if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, then I promise you we have only one choice. That man is ready, this team is ready, this movement is ready, and America is ready. Let's go make Donald Trump the 45th President of the United States of America, and we will make America great again. Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. I mean, really, truly, you know, sometimes I think it's important to pay more careful attention to what you already know. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you didn't come here to hear a speech. I hope you came here to be a part of a movement that is going to change Nevada and change America. And I want to share that with you because I want you to hear that passion. I want you to go tell somebody. That's my only request to you. Whatever you've heard today, and we'll have a conversation with neighbors and friends here, is go tell somebody today and in the next 82 days. That's going to be the difference. Okay, let's go. Yes, sir, right here. What's your first name?
Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Governor, I want to first of all make sure you tell Donald Trump and yourself thank you so much for supporting the military and our police officers.
I will. Okay. Thanks, Bob.
My family and I, we represent 4 generations of law enforcement, as well as my buddy over here does. So please keep that motto going. That was excellent yesterday when Mr. Trump said, and I loved it. Okay?
Thank you, Bob.
How do we reach the uninformed voter? Because I'm really disappointed in people that are uninformed that are going to carry this election possibly. How do we educate the uninformed?
Can I get a round of applause for 4 generations in law enforcement here? Would you both stand up, guys? Both of you mind getting up there? Thanks. Stand up one more time, Bob. That's an incredible contribution to safety and security of our community. Thank you. God bless you both. God bless your families. You know, honestly, on your second question, I will tell you that, you know, all the cable TV shows in the world, all the front pages of newspapers in the world, all the editorials, all the tweets in the world don't matter a hill of beans to when somebody you know walks up to you and says, let me tell you why I'm voting for Donald Trump. And everywhere I go in this country, we were down in New Mexico yesterday. We're back to the Hoosier State today. I'm going to be in New Hampshire tomorrow. I mean, I'm just telling people, go tell somebody. Because the sheer weight of you taking time to find somebody at work, at worship, outside the drugstore, and just saying, I mean, put that great Make America hat on again, and just walk up to them and say, for real, you know me. Let me tell you why I'm so passionate about this. Because word of mouth is still the most powerful media in America, and it always will be. It is the currency of the American people, and the American people are going to decide this election. And so we got to get to talking to each other. I really believe it. Okay. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mike Pence, I'm Big John. I actually did the topping off party for Mr. Trump for the Trump Tower here in Vegas.
Did you really?
I have a small catering company, and Mr. Trump didn't order one party, he ordered 2.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got 3 pieces of advice,
yes,
if I may be
Please.
so bold, sir.
Please.
We support you endlessly and 100,000%. But
you.
I think this will help. Number 1 is I think Mr. Trump, at the beginning of every public meeting or every little news conference or whatever, he holds up a sign. On that sign it says Trump with a number under it, and the other side says Clinton with a number under it. And what that is how many times Hillary Clinton has had a public meeting where the public asks questions or the press asks questions. I think she's had 1, it might be 2. Mr. Trump has had 180. Number 2 is, the second thing he should say is, I think if he put that up there, a sign, it would really make an impact, because people will see the difference between what he's trying to do and Miss hide behind the curtain, go run and hide under her bed, doesn't work weekends, and is a joke. Her whole thing is a joke, and the other folks don't get it. Mr. Trump is trying to explain things. Mr. Trump is coming out like you do. The second thing is, make a joke. Tell Mr. Trump, make a joke out of Hillary's lying, like this. Call her Pinocchio, okay, and say, she's telling you folks, follow me to Sugarland, follow me to get lollipops, you guys follow me, and then Mr. Trump says, I don't say follow me.
He stayed right in the metaphor. Did you hear that? He stayed.
I say don't follow me, I want you to hire me.
Okay, yeah.
So I think if Mr. Trump...
Got it, got number 2, number 3.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I think you should do is really, really go after what you stole my thunder, the coal people. I think if you tell people to get behind West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and the other states that have coal and that need jobs, I think if he uses that as a key freaking teeing off point.
Yeah, look, Big John.
Yes, sir.
You're a great guy. Thank you so much. What a great guy. What a great guy. Huh? I think This guy's like unnerving me. I feel like saying, I thought you were in New York today. No, I think you really make a terrific point about, Donald Trump is out. It's extraordinary to be with him, campaigning with him, and we did right after the convention for several days, and then we were campaigning together about once a week, maybe a little bit more, and it's exciting to be with him because he's with the American people. He's listening to the American people. He's talking to the American people, and I couldn't be more proud to stand with him. But Big John, thanks for your thoughts. Let me bounce over here real quick, and then I'll get to this familiar-looking gentleman. Yes, sir. What's your first name?
Jim, I really want to thank you. You had a marvelous speech. We're all looking for this great country to rise up again. My concern is for the two ranching families, the Bundys and the Hammonds. Their constitutional rights have been trampled by the Bureau of Land Management, and I hope and pray that when you get into office, you'll look into that.
Well, thank you. I know that's been a source of great controversy. Let me just speak in the most general terms, and that is that I spoke about the Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, Justice Antonin Scalia, went home to be with the Lord at a time where now the Supreme Court literally is on the ballot. I mean, the next president of the United States, whether it be in the Heller decision I mentioned about the Second Amendment, that was a 5-4 decision. I mean, the balance of the court is essentially on the ballot because in Hillary Clinton you have someone that's going to appoint more jurists to the bench that believe it's their role to essentially rewrite laws and write laws from the bench, as opposed to Donald Trump, who has committed himself to appoint, and he's asked me to help. I've served on the Judiciary Committee for a decade in Washington, D.C. He's asked me to help and bring conservative leaders together, and he will appoint to the Supreme Court justices who reflect the principles, the integrity, and the character of Justice Antonin Scalia. And so I just think it brings the whole matter into high relief. It truly does. Okay, let's see.
Governor, we have time for one more question.
You going to hold the mic for me? Okay. As the parent of a half Iranian 2 children, and my ex being Jewish Iranian, I have heard stories that very few of people in America have heard. I want to know why nobody talks about Sharia law coming to America. The press doesn't talk about it. Even Fox doesn't talk about it. I think Donald mentioned it once or twice. This is the biggest issue of all.
Well, let me tell you, when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, he is going to support and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and faithfully execute the laws of this land. He will. I promise you that. I would recommend to your attention, though, I really would, the speech, he gave an extraordinarily important speech last night in Milwaukee that we were just mentioning a minute ago. And I'll tell him what you said, Bob, I will. But let me also recommend to your attention a really important speech that he gave in Youngstown, Ohio. I was with him, talking about how we confront radical Islamic terrorism. And it is a multi-level approach. It is a multilateral approach. Many people, essentially, even some of his critics, came out and described it as one of the most serious speeches dealing with that issue and the threat that radical Islamic terrorism presents in the world today than had been given in years. And so I recommend it very much to your attention and appreciate your comment. Where did Bob go?
Governor
Pence. Is this going to be the last one, I think, back here? Probably fitting. Thanks.
Governor Pence, thank you for coming out here. We really appreciate it.
What's up on that hat, man?
My name is Steve Sanson, president of Veterans in Politics. I'm a 100% service-connected Gulf War veteran.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
And my question, Governor, a few years ago, we did a survey of veterans returning back from combat that suffered from TBI and PTSD. There are over 145,000 veterans incarcerated in our prisons and jails in this country. What are we going to do to treat them instead of incarcerating them?
First off, would everybody in the room, men and women who wore the uniform of the United States, mind standing up with this veteran? Would you mind standing up and allow us to thank all of you for your service to this country? Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you all for your service, and thank you for being a champion for our veterans and for health care. You know, it's interesting. I'm going back to Indiana tonight. And on Friday, we're going to break ground on the first new mental health hospital in the state of Indiana in a generation. The simple fact is that there is too often, as you may know, being very familiar with these issues, there's a very close relationship between substance abuse and mental health issues. And in the state of Indiana, we've done a couple of things. Number one, we just raised the mandatory minimum penalties for people that are selling drugs to our kids. We just got tougher on people that are selling drugs to our kids. But the other thing we did is we're expanding access to treatment for people that are caught up, and opiate abuse has become an epidemic across the country. I'm sure it's true here in Nevada. It is in Indiana and everywhere. But making treatment more available, to your point, for our veterans is just as poignant. And just as needful. I will tell you that one of the things I'm probably proudest of for the state of Indiana, not for me personally, is that we not only doubled our Veterans Affairs budget in the state of Indiana, we not only expanded a range of services, including health care for our veterans, but we were able to lower the veteran unemployment rate. Now it's the second lowest veteran unemployment rate in the United States of America. And that's exactly the kind of results that Donald Trump's going to bring to the White House. I promise you. I want you to take a look at it. I keep mentioning these speeches, but I want you to look at them. I mean, Donald Trump and I went to the VFW National Convention. And if you haven't seen that speech yet, you can probably get it on YouTube, or you can get it, point and click, and pull it up on the internet. He laid out, I think it was a 10-point plan for reforming the Veterans Health Administration and making sure that those who have earned, these are not benefits, these are earned, these are earned health care services that men and women in uniform are entitled to, and Donald Trump has a plan to fix the VA and make sure it's world-class health care for our veterans. So take a look at it. It's very strong. And he also made the point, last point is he also said that if you go to a Veterans Affairs hospital, we're going to reorganize this thing and make it work for our veterans, but if you can't get help that day, you're going to be able to go across the street and get private health care on the public nickel, and we're going to take care of our vets. So thank you. Thanks for being a champion. Mental health is a part of that. Keep it going out there, my friend, and bottom line, thank you for your service to the country. Listen, they're going to yank me out of here because I got to go jump on a plane, but give yourselves a round of applause. This was really awesome. Thank you for coming out. Thanks for being here. I'm very humbled by it. But I want to challenge you. I want to challenge each and every one of you. Remember, go tell somebody. If you heard something today that inspired you and encouraged you, then I'm humbled by that. But men and women, this is not about, if Donald Trump were here, he would say this as quickly as me. This is not about him. It's not about us. It's not about any one political party. This is about America. This is about making America great again. The American people can do it, but we got to tell our neighbors and friends, and let's bring Nevada home. Let's bring Nevada home for the next president of the United States. Thanks, everybody. God bless you.